My name is Natalie, and at 33, I live alone in a cozy little apartment. Right now, I'm sitting at the dining table, staring at my phone as it rings again. It's Liam, my fiancé. He's trying to talk about when he might meet my parents, and just the thought of it makes my stomach twist into knots. His voicemail plays through. Hey Natalie, just checking in. We really should plan on meeting your folks soon. Call me back, okay? I sigh deeply and glance around my apartment. It's small, but it's mine, decorated with bookshelves and a little balcony with a view of the city skyline. It's my quiet escape, a stark contrast to the chaos of my past. Growing up wasn't easy. My father left when I was 4, and I'll never forget watching him walk out the door, suitcase in hand, not even looking back. After he was gone, my mom grew cold, distant, and often irritable. I became the target for her frustrations. 3 years later, she remarried Vincent, a kind man who tried to make our fractured family work. But by then, my mom's attention had shifted entirely to Alice, my younger half-sister. Alice was the golden child, always showered with love and affection, a stark contrast to the lack of warmth I received. I'm snapped back to the present by my phone ringing again. It's Liam. This time, I answer. Hey Liam, I say, trying to sound upbeat. Natalie, I've been trying to reach you. When can we plan to meet your parents? His voice is full of excitement, unaware of the dread swirling in my chest. I'm not sure, I reply, my fingers tracing the edge of a pen. It's complicated. What's complicated? It's just dinner. Liam presses. I really want to meet the people who raised my amazing fiancé. I laugh nervously. You wouldn't say that if you knew my mom. She's a lot to handle. There's a pause, then Liam asks, is everything okay? You know you can tell me anything. I take a deep breath, deciding to let him in a little. It's just, my mom and I don't have the best relationship. She's always been so critical of me. It's nothing like your family. Liam's tone softens. I'm here for you, Natalie. We'll figure this out together. Maybe it's time to face it. He's right, of course, but the idea of confronting my mom, of exposing Liam to her sharp criticism and cold demeanor, fills me with dread. Yeah, maybe, I say, not fully convinced. Let's talk about it later. I need some time to think. Okay, he says. I love you, you know that, right? I know, Liam. I love you too, I reply, hanging up. My mind drifts back to those early years. After Dad left, things were hard. My mom's world seemed to shatter, and her heartbreak manifested as anger, often directed at me. I remember one evening when I was 6, sitting at the kitchen table, struggling with my homework. My mom paced back and forth, her face tight with worry. Natalie, can't you see I'm busy? Stop making that noise with your pencil, she snapped. Startled, I looked up. Sorry, Mom, I mumbled, trying to quiet the tapping of my pencil. Not long after that, Mom met Vincent. He was kind, gentle, and tried to bring some happiness back into her life, but that happiness never seemed to extend to me. When Alice was born, I felt as though I had vanished. One night, I accidentally overheard my mom talking to Vincent in the living room. She's just so difficult, Vincent. Nothing like Alice. I don't know what to do with her. Mom's voice was thick with frustration. My heart sank. Even at that young age, I knew she was talking about me. Vincent tried to soften the blow. She's just a kid, Megan. She needs your love, not your disappointment. But my mom wouldn't have it. She reminds me too much of him, she muttered bitterly. That night, I cried myself to sleep, realizing I was not the daughter she had hoped for. As I grew older, the distance between us only grew. By the time I was 8, it felt as though I had become invisible. I remember trying to share something special with my mom. Look, Mom, I got an A on this, I said, holding up a drawing I was proud of. Her response was dismissive, barely glancing at my artwork. That's nice, dear. Go show Vincent. I'm busy. Vincent, however, was different. He smiled and looked at my drawing with genuine appreciation. This is fantastic, Natalie. You're so talented. His praise warmed me, but it couldn't fill the emptiness left by my mom's indifference. Those years blurred together, each one blending into a constant sense of alienation, as if I was an outsider in my own home. My mom was quick to point out my flaws, especially as I hit my teenage years. Her critiques felt never-ending. Don't slouch. That outfit isn't flattering. Why can't you be more like Alice? Navigating my teenage years was like walking through a minefield, always careful, always bracing for the next round of criticism. By the time I was 13, her words had started to weigh on me in ways I couldn't ignore. I remember one evening when I was getting ready for a school dance. I thought I had picked out a pretty nice dress, and as I twirled in front of my mirror, I felt a rare wave of confidence. "Mom, can you help me with my hair?" I called, stepping into the living room. Mom looked up from her magazine, giving me a cursory glance. "You're wearing that. It's a bit snug, don't you think? Maybe you should watch your weight," she said, her tone sharp and dismissive. Her words hit me like a slap. I had thought I looked okay. I thought it was fine, I stammered, my confidence crumbling. With a sigh, Mom stood up. "Let me do your hair. Maybe that'll draw attention away from your figure." I sat in silence, feeling smaller with each passing second, as she briskly styled my hair, her touch cold and impersonal. School wasn't much of an escape either. One day, sitting with friends at lunch, the topic turned to families. "So, Natalie, what's your mom like?" Janice asked casually. I hesitated, unsure how to answer. Life at home felt like walking through a constant minefield, under the watchful eye of my exacting mother. "She's strict," I said, keeping my response brief. Janice picked up on the tension and tried to empathize. "It's okay. My mom's the same way, always on my case about grades." I forced a smile, grateful for her attempt to connect, but deep down, I knew our experiences were worlds apart. As I got older and started showing an interest in boys, the tension at home only escalated. One memory stands out clearly. I had invited Carl, a nice guy from school, over to work on a project. We were in the living room, engaged in conversation, when my mom walked in. She shot Carl a cold look, then turned to me. "Natalie, make sure you're actually studying and not just distracting the boy with your silly crushes," she announced, loud enough for Carl to hear. I was mortified. Carl looked uncomfortable, and the room became thick with awkwardness. After he left, I confronted her. "Why did you say that in front of Carl? It was so embarrassing." Mom shrugged, unfazed. "I'm just stating the obvious, Natalie. Besides, boys like him aren't interested in girls with your build." Her words cut deep, and after that, I became even more guarded about bringing friends, especially boys, into the house. During those difficult times, I often turned to Vincent. One evening, with Mom out, I confided in him. "Vincent, do you think I'm unattractive?" I asked, my voice hesitant. Vincent looked at me, surprised. "Natalie, you are beautiful. Don't ever let anyone, not even your mom, make you feel otherwise." By the time I reached my early 20s, my confidence, especially in relationships, had been severely affected by my experiences with my mom. I remember dating Bruce in college, a kind, genuine guy who seemed to like me despite my hesitations. Still, I decided to introduce him to my family. Dinner at my parents' house started off well enough. Vincent, as usual, was welcoming and warm, but my mom was another story. She had this uncanny ability to deliver backhanded compliments that could cut through the air like a knife. "So, Bruce, what are you studying?" she asked, passing the salad. "Engineering," Bruce replied, smiling. "I'm hoping to work on renewable energy projects after graduation." "That's ambitious," Mom said, her tone sharp. "Hopefully, you're not biting off more than you can chew like some people," she added, casting a pointed glance my way, clearly a jab at my past academic struggles. My cheeks burned with embarrassment, but Bruce tried to keep the mood light, though the evening quickly spiraled downhill from there. Every comment I made seemed to be twisted into a criticism by my mom. By the time we were leaving, I felt utterly drained. "I'm so sorry about that, Bruce," I apologized profusely. "My mom can be difficult." Bruce squeezed my hand, his voice gentle. "Hey, it's not your fault, but it does make things a bit complicated, doesn't it?" I knew exactly what he meant. The relationship eventually fizzled out, though it wasn't just about that one night. It was the pattern. My insecurity, fueled by my mom's constant belittling, made it nearly impossible to maintain a healthy relationship. A few years later, I met Liam. He was different, patient, kind, and utterly supportive. A stark contrast to the strained dynamics of my past relationships. Liam had this rare way of making me feel cherished, but the scars from my past were still there, always lurking beneath the surface. One quiet evening at my apartment, as we talked about our future together, those memories came rushing back. "Natalie, I love you, and I envision a future with us together," Liam said earnestly, holding my hands. "I love you too, Liam, but I'm scared," I confessed, my voice tinged with worry. "My past, my mom. It's all so complicated. I don't want to drag you into my mess." Liam looked into my eyes with such intensity that it calmed my anxiety. Even just a little. Your past doesn't define us. Yes, it's a part of you, but it doesn't have to control our future. We'll face it together, he reassured me. His words were a balm, but as the day to meet my parents approached, I was a bundle of nerves. Liam remained optimistic, trying to ease my worries. It's just dinner, Natalie. It'll be okay, he reassured me as we drove to my parents' house, though my stomach churned with unease. When we arrived, we were greeted at the door by Vincent, whose warm smile offered some small comfort. Natalie, Liam, welcome. Come on in, he said cheerfully. Mom was in the kitchen, and as soon as I caught sight of her, a familiar tension gripped me. She managed a polite smile for Liam, but her eyes were distant, almost cold. Dinner's nearly ready. Why don't you both sit down? She suggested, gesturing toward the dining table. The atmosphere was strained, heavy with unspoken tension. We all sat down, and Vincent tried to lighten the mood by engaging Liam in conversation. So, Liam, what do you do for a living? Liam, unaware of the undercurrents, answered cheerfully. I own a company that specializes in environmental consulting, and during dinner, I noticed a flicker of something in my mom's eyes when Liam mentioned his business. Was it interest, or perhaps opportunism? It was hard to say. That sounds impressive, Mom remarked, her tone suddenly warmer. A company owner, no less. You must be doing quite well for yourself. There was an edge to her words, and I felt that familiar pang of discomfort. The rest of the evening was tense, with Mom alternating between subtly belittling me and praising my younger sister Alice, who wasn't even there. Every so often, she would turn the conversation back to Liam, probing him about his business and future plans. Each time, I saw that same calculating gleam in her eyes, as if she was evaluating his worth, not just as a person, but for what he could offer. By the time we left, I felt a mix of relief and frustration. The ride home was quiet until Liam finally broke the silence. Your mom seems a bit too interested in my business, he said, his tone guarded. I sighed, feeling drained. Yeah, she has a way of evaluating people. I'm sorry, Liam. This is just how it's always been. Liam squeezed my hand, his support unwavering. We're in this together, Natalie. Remember that, he reminded me. The next morning, still reeling from my mom's comments, we were caught off guard when Liam's phone rang. It was an unknown number. As Liam's expression shifted from curiosity to shock, I tensed. Hang on, what did you just say? Liam asked, his voice rising in disbelief. On the other end of the line, there was a faint, muffled response, adding yet another layer of mystery to the situation. Liam hung up, his face a mixture of confusion and anger. That was your mom, he told me, his eyes locking with mine. She just proposed something outrageous. A chill ran down my spine as I braced myself for what was coming next. What are you talking about? I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. Liam took a deep breath before revealing. She suggested that I should leave you and consider marrying Alice instead. The words hit me like a physical blow, leaving me breathless. She said what? I exclaimed, my heart pounding in disbelief. Liam nodded grimly. She said you weren't right for me and that Alice would be a better fit. She was serious, Natalie. I was dumbstruck. The idea that my mother would even suggest something like that was unfathomable. We need to do something about this, Liam said, his jaw clenched. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about exposing her for who she really is. Fueled by a mix of anger and determination, I agreed. We could record her saying it, catch her in the act. Liam nodded firmly. Let's do it. Let's show everyone her true colors. The plan was set. Liam would call my mom back, feeding interest in her proposal, and we would record the conversation. That evening, we sat in my living room with the phone on speaker. I pressed record on my phone as Liam dialed my mom's number. Hello, Megan. It's Liam, he said, his voice calm but firm. Liam, darling, I'm so glad you called back. Have you thought about what I suggested? Mom's voice was unnervingly sweet. Yes, I have. It's an interesting idea, but I need to know. Why do you think Natalie isn't right for me? Liam probed. There was a pause before Mom replied, her voice smooth but cold. Oh, Liam, you're such a catch. You deserve someone better, someone like Alice. Natalie has always been a bit of a disappointment. My heart ached hearing those words, but I stayed silent, letting the recording continue. We should meet and discuss this further, Liam suggested, trying to keep his voice steady. Maybe over coffee. That sounds wonderful. Let's do it. I'll arrange a time and place, Mom responded eagerly, her voice dripping with enthusiasm. After hanging up, I was flooded with emotions: hurt, anger, betrayal, but also a sense of purpose. We had a plan now, and it was time to expose my mom's true nature. The next few days passed in a blur of planning and apprehension. Liam and I were determined to catch my mom in her own game. He arranged to meet her at a cafe downtown, and I decided to disguise myself so I could witness everything firsthand. On the day of their meeting, the weight of what we were about to do was heavy in the air. I sat at the cafe, disguised with a wig and oversized sunglasses, hoping to remain completely unrecognizable. My heart pounded with every passing second as I watched Liam, who arrived first and settled near the window. A few minutes later, my mom entered, skating the room before she spotted him. With a confident smile, she walked over to Liam. "Liam, so good to see you," she greeted, taking a seat. "Thanks for meeting me, Megan," Liam replied, his voice calm but firm. Mom leaned in, her tone dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I think it's for the best. Natalie's just not suitable for you. Alice, on the other hand, is perfect. She's everything Natalie isn't." The lump in my throat grew, but I forced myself to stay silent, watching them closely. Liam subtly nodded in my direction, signaling that the recorder was on. "But why are you so against Natalie?" Liam asked, continuing to play his part. Mom sighed, her voice taking on a confessional tone. "Between us, I never really wanted Natalie. After her father left, she just reminded me too much of the bad times. Alice is my real daughter, the one I care about." My hands trembled under the table as I listened to her cold, heartless words. It felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Liam, ever the professional, shifted the topic to lighter subjects, keeping the conversation natural while the recorder captured every word. After about 20 minutes, their meeting concluded, and I watched as my mom left with a look of satisfaction on her face. I immediately removed my disguise and joined Liam, overwhelmed by a mixture of emotions. "I can't believe she said those things," I whispered, tears brimming in my eyes. Liam squeezed my hands, his face a mask of sympathy. "I'm so sorry, Natalie. But now we have the proof. What do you want to do with it?" Taking a deep breath, a surge of sadness mixed with fierce determination coursed through me. "We expose her, Liam. At the next family gathering. Everyone needs to know the truth." Liam nodded resolutely. "We'll do it together. It's time everyone saw the real Megan." We left the cafe, a plan forming between us, ready to unveil my mother's true nature to the family, especially Vincent, who had been kept in the dark for far too long. The night of the family dinner arrived, and I could feel the tension building. We were about to make an unforgettable revelation. As we sat down to eat, my mom, with a smug look in her eyes, couldn't help herself. "Natalie, I have some news," she said with barely concealed glee. "Liam has seen the light. He's left you and is now interested in your sister Alice." Alice's smile widened, mirroring my mother's smug expression. Vincent, sitting beside them, looked utterly stunned, his fork frozen halfway to his mouth. "What are you talking about, Megan?" Vincent asked, disbelief evident in his voice. Before Mom could elaborate, Liam caught my eye and gave me a subtle wink. It was our cue. I reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, and pressed play. The room went completely silent as the recording of Mom's conversation with Liam filled the air. "I never wanted Natalie. Her father left, and she just reminds me of all the bad times. Alice is my real daughter, the one I care about." Her words echoed through the room, every syllable crisp and clear. Mom's face drained of color as she realized what was happening. Her eyes widened in shock as Vincent turned to look at her, pain and disbelief evident on his face. "What is this?" Vincent asked, his voice shaking. I faced my mom directly, my voice calm yet firm amidst the chaos. "That's you on the tape, talking to Liam. You're telling him to leave me for Alice, expressing how little you think of me." Mom tried to protest, but I cut her off. "No, Mom, this isn't just a misunderstanding. This is the truth. You've always treated me like a burden." The room fell into a heavy silence. Vincent turned to Mom, his face a mixture of anger and harkash. "Megan, is this true? Did you really say those things?" Mom, usually so composed, was speechless. Her facade crumbled. Vincent stood, his chair scraping loudly against the floor as he pushed it back. I can't believe this. After all these years, I had no idea, he said, his voice filled with sorrow. He looked at me, his expression apologetic. I'm so sorry, Natalie. Mom found her voice, though it was weak and defensive. Vincent, I didn't mean it. It was just talk. No, Megan, this is unforgivable, he said, his voice resolute. I need to think. He left the room abruptly, the silence in his wake heavy and suffocating. Mom broke down, her composure shattering as Alice sat motionless, her eyes flicking between my mom and the door Vincent had exited through. Liam took my hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. You did the right thing, Natalie. I nodded, a mix of relief and sadness washing over me. It's over. It's finally over. In the days that followed, Vincent filed for divorce. I made the difficult decision to cut ties with Mom and Alice. It hurt, but I knew it was the only way to heal. Liam and I tied the knot in a small, intimate ceremony. Vincent was there, his tears a mix of sorrow and support. He was the only family I needed. As I stood beside Liam, a new sense of freedom washed over me, clearing away the dark clouds of my past. I had found true love with Liam, but more importantly, I had learned to love myself. For the first time in my life, I felt a deep, real happiness and a profound sense of peace.